Have you ever really wanted something, only to realize later it wasn't actually good for you? In that moment of intense craving, it can feel impossible to control yourself. But giving in to every desire that crosses your mind leads nowhere good. Learning to rein in your impulses is essential for personal growth and living a fulfilling life. Our inner world, the landscape of our emotions, thoughts, and desires, is vastly complex. At times, it can feel as boundless and fathomless as the night sky, with constellations of feelings flickering in and out of view. We often fool ourselves into thinking we've charted the full extent of our inner cosmos, only to have some new nebula of anxiety or unknown dark matter of impulse make itself known. Let's get real. Truly understanding the self in all its intricacies is a lifelong endeavor. The mind contains multitudes, as Walt Whitman wrote. Have you ever caught yourself acting out of character and wondered, where did that come from? Have you ever been totally blindsided by a feeling you didn't know was simmering beneath the surface? Our capacity for self-deception is immense. We often think of ourselves as rational creatures, but just below the thin, icy crust of logic lies a churning ocean of instincts, cognitive biases, and desires. Every decision we make is shaped by deep currents of emotion and primal urges flowing through the caverns of the older brain. Reason is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the forces guiding our actions. Desire is intrinsic to the human experience. From basic needs like food, water, and shelter to abstract longings for purpose and intimacy, desire breathes life into our days, stirring us to action. But unfulfilled desire can also torment us, robbing our peace of mind. Recognizing which desires serve us versus which ones lead us astray is no easy task. It's frighteningly easy to get caught up in the riptide of emotions and desires and get swept away from the present moment. How often do we look back on something we said or did and think, what was I thinking? That wasn't really me. In those moments, we were identifying with the cascade of thoughts pouring through our minds, rather than observing them from a place of awareness. This elaborate inner world, as fundamental a part of us as it feels, is ultimately separate from our true essence. Our thoughts and feelings are like clouds passing through the sky of consciousness. We can watch them drift across our inner horizon, acknowledge their presence, yet retain the perspective that they are not us. We are the vast sky, not the passing clouds. With mindful detachment, we can avoid being tossed about by the storms of want, anger, fear, and regret. So how do you gain self-control of these desires that ultimately don't serve us? First, by harnessing the power of discipline. You see, developing true self-discipline requires commitment and repetition. Like building any muscle, increasing your willpower takes small, consistent efforts over time. Don't expect overnight results. Real change happens gradually through steady practice. But stick with it, and those small steps will compound into tremendous growth. What does that practice look like day to day? It means forming habits that strengthen your capacity for self-control. For instance, you might set a goal to meditate 5 minutes each morning. As you become accustomed to directing your attention and observing your thoughts non-judgmentally, it strengthens your ability to pause before reacting to any impulsive desires throughout the day. Or you can use small tests of discipline to build your willpower muscle. For example, only checking your phone at designated times rather than giving in to constant notifications, or having just one cookie after dinner when you want to eat the whole box. Tiny acts of restraint reinforce the neural pathways that improve self-control. When tempting situations arise that pit your desires against your values, discipline gives you the power to pause, reflect, and then respond wisely. Consider the last time you got into a pointless argument. With discipline, you could have noticed your anger rising, taken a few deep breaths to calm your nerves, and replied respectfully rather than lashing out. Discipline means enduring short-term discomfort for the long-term benefits that come through self-restraint. Resisting that tasty but unhealthy food option requires tolerating hunger pangs and cravings in the moment. But the long-term payoff is improved health and sense of agency over your actions. Don't dread discipline as restrictive or oppressive. Think of it as strengthening your freedom of choice. Discipline is the space between impulse and action, where you empower yourself to respond consciously. The more you build this capacity, the more freedom you gain to live in alignment with your highest values. Giving free rein to our impulses can wreak havoc on our lives and relationships. Uncontrolled desires often lead us to take actions that satisfy our immediate cravings but undermine our long-term well-being. Take lust, for example. In the heat of passion, it's easy to get caught up in sexual desire and neglect the consequences it may have on your relationships. Many promising romantic connections have been ruptured by infidelity born of uncontrolled lust. One night of giving in to temptation can unravel years of building trust and intimacy with your partner. Or consider greed, that insatiable hunger for more. How many people undermine their integrity and values in the relentless pursuit of wealth and status? The yearning for material success can tempt people into lying, cheating, and trampling over others to claw their way to the top. Envy can also poison relationships when left unrestrained. Comparing yourself to others breeds resentment, even towards people you care about. Unchecked, envy can morph into hostility as you wish misfortune on others and try to tear them down. Excessive anger unchecked can turn violent, causing irreparable harm. Impatience unchecked can turn into chronic anxiety when your mind is chronically focused on the future rather than embracing the present. Not all desires are detrimental in themselves. Anger can give us motivation to confront injustice. Sexual energy can facilitate intimate bonding. Ambition drives achievement. But too much of any good thing can be destructive. The key is conscious moderation, not total suppression of desire. Aim for balance, channeling these currents, but not letting them overflow their banks and flood your life. With discipline, you can experience desire without being possessed by it. Society often pushes certain worldly desires aggressively through media and culture. But just because the herd is moving one way doesn't mean you have to follow. Don't thoughtlessly indulge these influences. Question them. Are they serving your authentic needs or someone else's interests? Thirdly, learn to make conscious choices. We face a barrage of stimuli every day, both externally and internally. There are endless sights, sounds, and sensations coming at us from the outside world. At the same time, our minds whir endlessly, generating a stream of thoughts, judgments, and impulsive desires. It's exhausting to feel compelled to react to all of this input. We don't need to respond to every provocation or process every passing thought. That leads nowhere but frustration and depletion of willpower. We get to choose how to direct our mental energy. The space between impulse and reaction is the arena of choice. In those precious few seconds, we have the power to pause and consider a conscious response. The next time you feel yourself getting hooked into an unnecessary argument, stop. Take a few deep breaths. Ask yourself, is this worthy of your energy? Does reacting serve you or just prolong pointless drama? Similarly, when you notice your mind obsessing about some perceived fault or threat, gently direct your attention elsewhere. Don't suppress the thought. Just acknowledge it and let it go like leaves floating down a stream. Save your focus for responding effectively to whatever truly matters in this moment. Every day provides opportunities to exercise conscious choice and build your autonomy. When you feel offended or provoked, choose compassion over retaliation. When you feel the pull of distraction, choose to fully engage in the present. When desire arises, choose integrity over impulsiveness. Building this capacity for discernment strengthens your freedom in the long run. Each small choice, makes it easier to pause and select the wise option going forward. You reinforce the pathways between impulse and considered action. Don't dread this as limiting your options. See it as reclaiming ownership over your attention and will. The more consciousness you bring to your choices, the more empowered you become. Lastly, own yourself. What do I mean by this? It's easy to see desires as external forces that push and pull us against our will. But the truth is, we have a choice in how we respond to those impulses. We can establish mastery over our wants and stop being slaves to whatever bright, shiny object catches our attention. The key is recognizing that desires arise and fade away like breaths. They are temporary visitors, not our eternal essence. When you find yourself craving a certain pleasure or possession, take a step back. Observe the feeling rather than grasping at it. Notice how it comes and goes like a wave without defining you. In those moments of self-awareness, you tap into something deeper than the fleeting desires skimming the surface of your mind. Of course, that's easier said than done. Habits of indulgence and instant gratification have sculpted neural pathways that keep pulling us back. Establishing self-mastery requires time, compassionate effort, and trust in the process. There will be mess-ups and backsliding. Don't let perfectionism stop you from trying. Think of it like training in the gym. Some days your willpower muscles will fatigue faster than others. Some desires will remain stubbornly strong. But keep showing up and pushing yourself a little further. Tiny incremental gains compound over time into tremendous transformation. The strength to conquer your impulses comes from within. Motivation rooted in external achievement or approval is unstable and fleeting. Lasting change happens when you're driven by core values and a clear vision for the person you aspire to become. Let that meaning guide you through the ups and downs. Don't be intimidated by the long path ahead. Just focus on what you can control in this moment. Pause, breathe, relax into simple being rather than compulsive doing. You know what feels right. One step at a time, you'll gain mastery of mind and desires. Stay patient and persist. If this video has also been helpful in any way, then like and hit the subscribe button and join this brotherhood. Don't forget to also hit the notification icon so you are made aware anytime I drop a new video. Until next time.